All right, we're up. We'll give them a few minutes, get some people online.
Okay.
I'm glad you chose 7 because I feel like that's a better time for people by the time they get off work, get home, get dinner.
Yeah, I had a double distillation today, and then I had to go pick up my boy from school, so it worked out perfect.
Gotcha. It's crazy that it's still daylight at 7 o'clock, right?
I know. I like it though.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. I just want it dark around 8 for sure.
Yeah, I always get a lot more done this time of year.
Yeah, for sure. If I get my butt in bed early enough so I can get up early enough and get after it. See if I can show the comments. You might want to show them on your end too. Show. I guess you can see them like that if I do that, huh? Can you see them on the screen?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. I guess I have to show each one, huh? There's James. Hey, man.
Yeah, what's up, James?
Give everybody a few minutes, man, and we'll get after it. It's only 7:01. What's up? Trolling Tide. I don't know who that is. All right, brother. I guess we'll go ahead and get into it, and we'll let
Okay.
everybody catch up as they get on. We got about 6 people on. Hey, Seth. Thanks for tuning in, brother. Yeah, he's being loud with his little high pitch whine.
You can barely hear him.
Hey, Keith. Cheers. All right, Phil. Let's go ahead and get into it, man. So it's been a few months since we did a live, and you and I've been talking pretty frequently. So there's a lot going on over your way, and I'm really excited about it. Obviously, I haven't told anybody because it's not my business to tell, but I'm excited for you. So here's a platform for you tonight to talk a little bit about what's going on, man.
Yeah, we're excited. A lot has changed since we did that last live, and future's looking good. Really starting to get our name out there. People are really enjoying the whiskey that we're putting out, and kind of also being, transparent about what we're also doing on the side with some of these experimental batches that
Hmm.
we have going and aging right now. Just having a lot of fun with it.
That's awesome. Um, you're talking about experimental stuff. Like obviously, we've seen a lot of your posts about the different color corns that you're using, different grains and stuff, and then the bottles that you guys dropped at Spillway for the event, red, white, and blue. I don't think that I really ever either I didn't pay attention, didn't catch on, but like tell us what's going on there, and if they're sold out, if they got any more of those. I
Yeah,
didn't get one.
that was a special bottle for a couple of different reasons. In my mind, that's the best whiskey we've ever bottled. So we were fortunate enough to team up with Fifth Squad, and that veteran group, and had them come by and had a lot of fun doing the barrel picks. But about a year and a half ago, we started dropping what's in front of you right there, the red label. That's
Mhm.
only single barrel store picks or group picks, and people are really enjoying them. Right, the first one we've ever released was in with Bourbon for Family, and I think it sold out as a 3 barrel blend, sold out in like 7 minutes. People
Wow.
enjoyed it, and I found myself about a month later in the backwoods of Alabama with our good buddy Seth. And
Right.
first time I ever met him, walked up and he didn't shake my hand. He immediately gave me a hug. I was like, okay, this is gonna be something special, right? But so he was drinking that bottle, the first barrel pick we ever did, and he told me, "So Philip, this is the best bourbon I've ever had in a small barrel, but stop doing that." And so we got into the kind of the science and the the aging here in the Gulf South and whatnot, and had a very good conversation about that. And so I found myself over the next, I guess, month or so, kind of losing sleep. Should I go down this route or not? So prior to that, about a year and a half before that, we started only filling large 53-gallon barrels.
Okay.
So last year, 2024, we finished out all the last of the 10-gallon barrels, and then we bumped up to 15s and 30s. Well, so about a year and a half before that, we were solely filling 53s.
Hmm.
Well, with all of that in mind, what I had decided about a month after that meeting was I decided to dump 98% of our 15-gallon barrels and put them into brand new 53-gallon barrels. So
And
get
you're at Kelvin, right?
those are barrel mill. Now
Okay.
we're getting Kelvin char number 3 medium toast. But so put them into the larger barrels. But another big change we did was we proofed it down. We dropped the entry proof to that second barrel to 115. So to date, we had only filled barrels at 124. So we're below that 125 bourbon designation that it can't enter the barrel above. And all of our new make now is now going in at 115. Because the thing
Okay.
is, here in the Gulf South, we're hot, we're very humid. You tend to pull more tannins out of the wood, and especially exponentially in the smaller barrels.
For sure.
So with the lower barrel entry proof, yes, it costs us a lot more money, and to have the additional barrels to store and to even store those additional barrels.
Right.
But by dropping that entry proof, you tend to pull less tannins and more sugars out of the wood, and we're already seeing that.
Awesome.
So with us dumping all of those 15-gallon barrels into the 53s, when we had Fifth Squad and Spillway over to pick barrels, pretty much knew the barrels that we were going to pick because they're special. And we ended up picking 2 of them. So
Okay.
this is technically a double oak that Spillway has. I think they do still have some left. Now, I won't hold that double oak name until it's a true double oak for us. But you can see with that, with the bigger barrels, with the lower secondary barrel entry proof, where our whiskey's going. It's a lot more approachable, a lot more palatable. Kind of bottle you have in front of you, that's going to be a 10-gallon right there. It's going to be kind of punch you in the face, tannins, high oak, whatnot. So
Mhm.
it's a little bit more palatable to the masses. And like I said, this, in my mind, that's the best whiskey that we bottled to date, and it's a pretty good representation on where our whiskey's going as well.
Okay. Well, I'll
So
definitely be looking to get one of those. I need to see if they have any left. So,
yeah,
was the red, white, and blue wax? They were all the same. It just did the red, white, and blue to kind of space it out and make the whole scene of red, white, blue. Is that
yeah, exactly. So that's the American flag label. There is 2 different barrels. So you'll see the barrel numbers on there is going to be an M-CC-001. It stands for mingled. That means we dumped all those 15-gallon barrels, put them into big ones. So we have a 001 and 003. The 001 is kind of quoted as stanky leg because that's the barrel that Bobby with the Mississippi Sippers was twerking on top of, I think in August prior. So we had a really good time picking barrels. And then the other one is called powdered sugar. So as soon as we all taste it, said, man, this tastes like kind of confectionery, powdered sugar, just a little lighter on the palate than the Stinky Leg. Stinky Leg is a little more bolder, a little longer lasting finish. But
Okay.
what you'll see is so that bottle in front of you right there, it's probably what in the 120s proof. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
these are 114.2 and 114.8. So that's another change that's going to happen by going with that lower barrel entry proof. Look, if you're a proof seeker, you like the 130s, the hazmats, 140 plus. I'm not going to have the whiskey for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our cask strengths are going to tend to go more around the probably 117 range is what we're going to be looking at for our true cask strengths in starting the big barrels.
Obviously talking with Seth, I've learned a lot about proof and such. And I think I chased proof thinking that it either meant it was going to be crazy and ethanol forward and I wasn't going to like it, or it was so concentrated in flavor that I was going to love it. And it just meant to me that it wasn't watered down. But little did I know there was so much science behind, the environment, what proof you go in the barrel at. You can have a barrel strength product come out, or even a foolproof product come out that's got a ton of flavor, and it be sub hazmat or sub 130s. And what I am learning with the higher proof whiskeys, I still do like them, is regardless of whether they drink palatable wise, like a 140 drinks like a 120 or something, it still blows your palate out. Like you're not going to be able to really fairly taste another whiskey behind it. So I don't know that I really favor the high proof whiskeys like that, especially if I'm doing like reviews or flavor profiles and that kind of thing. I'm thinking somewhere in that 110 to 120 range is a sweet spot. But
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head. There's so much that goes into aging a whiskey other than barrel entry proof. We touched on it a bit. Is where you're getting your barrels from. That has a massive impact on your whiskey. Not just the cooperage, but what char and toast are you picking? So we go with the char number 3 medium toast on all of ours, and we're going to start double oaking some here pretty soon. But it's not just that; it's also your barrel house. Do you have the proper ventilation within your barrel house that you need? Are you adjusting the temperature wise, or even humidity? Since we're here in the Gulf South.
got you. It's crazy. There's so much science to it, and there's so much that I thought I knew about whiskey, and the more I dig, the more I figure out I don't know. I mean, the other thing is I would have always assumed that, something dark motor oil like this was going to be for me. That means that thing is full of flavor. And it doesn't always mean that with some whiskeys I've seen that it could be darker and not be as full of flavor. Or I've seen like American light whiskeys that are very amber in color, but holy cow, they just really cover the palate well with flavor. So I'm learning that while a lot of these things do tell a story, they don't all tell the whole story, right?
No, it's so true. And I saw one of you posts the other day about age. Everybody wants to know what's the age of it. What's the age? But there's so much more that goes into that number.
For sure.
What size barrels? What actual product are you putting in that barrel? And where are you located? What's sitting in front of you right there? That's a 3-year-old whiskey. Put a
Right.
3-year-old whiskey in New York or Colorado, and you're not getting that color or that kind of that oak impact within that time frame. So that's
Right.
why I'm open about it. But that's a 3-year-old whiskey. But yeah, there's so much more into that that number, that age.
It
But I
is.
will say, we did a barrel pick the other day with a store that's called Nunu's right by us.
Mhm.
Always been very supportive of us, and they actually picked 2 barrels. They picked a 10-gallon and they picked a 15. They were sitting right next to each other in the barrel house, aged the exact same amount of time. They went into the barrel the exact same day, and me personally, I like that 15 better. And we progressively we tasted 10s and 15s and some 30s and even some bigger barrels, and they're like this. We appreciate this because we see the kind of progression where it's going. And yeah, the larger the barrels, the less the impact you're getting, the more the whiskey that you get to taste. So that was a fun one to do, and especially to release both those barrels at the same time. Which is why I'm saying, the Spillway, those American flag bottles are so good. It's so much more approachable.
I like it. I definitely need to get one and try it, because that was the thing with, the first time that I tried this earlier whiskey. I mean, obviously I drink it, but um, it does have that punch in the face tannings. You can really tell the barrel impacted it heavily, and I didn't realize it was only 3 years. I never really, I guess, read the label well, but um,
That's a 3-year-old right there. We're sitting at around 3.5 for the whiskeys that we're putting out right now. Um, Early next year, that tan bottle that's sitting right in front of you, that's a 94 proof. That's moving to bottled and bond, 4 years.
okay,
Very proud to move to bottled and bond. That 94 proof is going to be out the window and replaced by the 100. But at that time, there'll be no whiskey leaving this distillery under bonded. So under 100 proof or under 4 years. The next year, it's going to be a 5-year bonded. The next year, it's going to be a 6-year bonded. And then we'll kind of see from there. What I'm kind of seeing, from some of these other distilleries and around, I have some others reserved to the side, is 6 years is the sweet spot here in the Gulf South. Yeah, we'll see some 8s. I don't know if we'll see a 10 or not, but
right.
6 is a sweet spot, and I know
I agree with that.
there's people out there that they may kind of turn up their nose on a 6 year from some of these northern distilleries. That's what I'm saying. Back
Yeah,
to the same statement is there's so much more within that number.
I almost wish in some ways that we could just remove labels from bottles, because just put the whiskey in the glass and try it regardless. And if you like it, you like it. You don't, right? But the label shouldn't tell you the story. The brand shouldn't tell you the story. Heck, I'm thinking the color shouldn't even tell you the story. Like, put the darn whiskey in the glass and try it. Let the whiskey tell the story.
Yeah, I agree, but I also do like transparency. I do like seeing an age statement on there. Once we come out with the bond and whatnot, it's going to have basically years and months, exactly what it's going to age. That American flag bottle we're talking about, that's the first time ever that we actually put the mash bill on the label itself. Now we say it, verbally. We have it all over our website. Not only the whiskeys we have out, but all of our experimentals, putting our mash bills out there. But that's kind of moving forward. Once we're redoing our labels right now, moving to bond, it's going to have all the information on there. So there's going to be no questions.
I do like that. I love knowing, what I'm drinking, but I'm just really learning that just because it's a 65% corn, 15% wheat, and I'm not a wheat guy, doesn't mean I'm not going to like it, because there are a lot of wheat whiskeys out there that I like. And just because it says that it's a 4 or 5 year age stated, doesn't mean I'm not going to like it. So, I do like knowing all those things, because it does tell the story. Once you put it in the glass and you drink it, now you can say, man, I like that 5-year wheater from South Alabama or wherever, right? But I hate that we just judge things by the label. So many people will run from anything rye, high rye bourbon, rye whiskey. Like, I don't want to fool with it. You got to give it a chance, man. Not all of them are the same.
You do, but also, I mean, even that mash bill, whether it's on the label or not, that only tells a portion of the story. I mean, where are those grains coming from? What's the mash process? Not that everyone is going to understand that, because I mean, yeah, we do, because we live and breathe this day in and day out.
Right.
Your mash product, what type of still are you using? That's a massive impact on the distillate coming off, right?
For sure.
It can change the product completely, whether you use a pot still versus a continuous column still.
Yeah. Michael's asking, what's the normal entry fill on a barrel? Do you fill it 80% full?
No, we fill it up, but I will say, when we pick these barrels, it's almost every single time. If I find a barrel that is, half full or less when it breaks my heart. But that is always going to be a killer barrel. It never fails. So I would love to maybe do some tests since I'm in this experimental, maybe fill some half full. It'll cost a lot of money to fill
Yeah.
barrels half full, but maybe a cool test to see, what does that additional oxygen within that barrel, in that headspace do to the whiskey.
Right, for sure. And that was something that I never really understood on going in at lower proof, entry proof, and it costed more money. I would always think, how's that costing you money? Because you're just putting water in the whiskey and spreading it further, and then you start talking about all the additional barrels that you're filling, right? So, um, yeah, a lot to be said for that. But apparently, there's science behind it that leaves you with a better, more approachable whiskey.
Yeah, and look, we're still holding that whiskey. We're holding most of the whiskey back to get to the 4, 5, 6 years. And once we get to that 6 year kind of age statement, we'll see. But what we're seeing already with the lower entry proof, and especially some of these different toasts, along with the char that we're using from a different cooperage, even though it's young, already loving the results of it.
Awesome. I need to get over there and visit you, man, and try some of the stuff you've got. It's been a minute, so
Yeah, especially some of these experimentals. I tell you what, we did. So we're using all different types of grain, like you said before. Some different color corn, some bloody butcher red corn, some white corn, some blue corn. But did a mash bill the other day, which was 70% triticale. So triticale is going to be that hybrid grain between rye and wheat. So
right.
get the spice to the rye, but not like your typical rye you're using. When I mashed that in, it was 70% triticale. That mash tasted like cinnamon toast crunch. Not even joking, and it followed through on the distillate. So,
That's
um,
awesome.
knock on wood, I haven't made a bad one yet. And I'm still having a lot of fun with these. I can't wait for these things to release because every one of them's going to be different, night and day different.
Yeah, the first time I'd ever even heard of that was Mike had introduced me to the Distillarium out of Washington, Yakima, Washington. And one of theirs said that it was the triticale, and I had to Google it. I was like, "What the heck is that?" Like, I know rye, I know wheat. Like, what is this? But that's a very interesting hybrid grain for sure.
Yeah, it's a fun grain. I built out a mash bill actually. Just hang around this past weekend, so I'm gonna put into place. It's gonna be a bourbon, but I'm gonna put oats in it. So we'll see kind of what the oats, import on that bourbon.
I seem to like that in there.
Spill the
James
beans
is
on
saying,
the
"Spill the
rye.
beans on the rye."
Yeah, so rye is still aging. It's good right now, but it hits 4 years next summer. I'm not gonna release the rye or the wheated bourbon until it's minimum bonded. Even at that, we're gonna hold most of it back to get to the 5 and the 6 years. So it's gonna go through two more summer heat cycles. Um, God, it broke my heart the other day. I had a barrel that was just leaking like a sieve. Well, luckily I caught it early enough, so that one got dumped and went into a brand new Kelvin Cooperage barrel, Char 3 medium toast. So yeah, I'm excited to release it. But again, if once it hits 4 years, if it's not ready, it's not going to be released.
I
Already
don't
made a
blame you.
mistake once. I'm not going to make it again. Look, quite honestly, if I didn't have to sell any whiskey right now, I wouldn't. Still have to keep the doors open. But so that's why we're holding most of the whiskey back, getting to the bonded and getting to the larger ages.
Patience, patience is the biggest virtue in this business. It seems, man.
Yeah.
But I tell you, I was telling Matt the other day because I started trying Matt's stuff, between 3 and 4, and now we're turning the corner at 6, and I'm like, Matt, something's happened between 5 and 6, especially between 4 and 6. Like, wow.
Well,
And obviously the same thing with Seth's stuff, right? Like we tried his stuff all the way from 21 months to 72 months, and when he started turning that corner and getting into the 48 to 50 months, that 56-month profile was right for me. Not every barrel is the same for sure, but um, I do agree with you that 6 year, 5 to 6 year range is the sweet spot down here.
yeah, we've all tasted, Matt's rye at 2 years when we first released it. Then, Then he put out his 4-year rye. I tried a 7-year from him a couple of weeks ago, and it blew me away. So I'm curious to see kind of what that means for our different whiskeys, and what I'm seeing is especially the wheated bourbon, it needs more age on it. It absolutely does. So that's what I said. If either of these are not ready at the 4-year bond, it's not going to be released. Um, the rye is already a banger, but
Kudos to you
like I said
for
before,
hanging on to it.
rye's a hard sell. Anytime you put rye on it or high rye bourbon mash bill, people tend to be a little not scared of it, but less likely to pick it up versus say a traditional bourbon.
For sure. And I think a lot of that is either they tried something that just wasn't ready, a young rye, or they've heard their buddies tell them that somebody else told them that you don't want to go with rye. Like it's going to be too hot. It's going to punch you in the teeth. Like there again, man, try
Well,
the whiskey, try the whiskey.
I'm guilty of that as well. So years ago, one of my good buddies called me and said, "Philip, are you ever going to make a rye whiskey?" I said, "Man, I don't think so. I don't like rye whiskey." And so he's a main marketer for a brewery right by us. And he said, Philip, we started doing a lot better as a company when we started listening to our customers. Said, boy, so he humbled me, right? He said, "Well, look, Philip, you're not drinking good rye. Let me send you some bottles." And he did. And he was right. And it made me dive all into rye. What it did tell me, though, is I did not want to make a 95.5 high rye spice. So what I did was I bumped up my malted barley and I put 20% Louisiana corn in it to put a little sweetness on it. And I'll say it's my favorite distillate coming off the still. So I'm
Wow.
excited for people to really try it once it's finally out. We got a little bit of a wait, but it'll be here, right around the corner.
For sure. Yeah, I guess I don't know, maybe I'm just the opposite of everybody else, but I usually lean toward rye, high rye bourbons and rye whiskeys. Not afraid of the 95 fives, but I do tend to really like the ryes that have the higher corn as a secondary mash in there, which is what Seth did with his. But um, if you look through my collection, I'd probably say the majority of it's going to be rye whiskey and high rye bourbons, but that's just me. But um, let's see. Seth was saying any interesting finishing that you're doing on the experimental batches.
So not necessarily the experimental batches for finishings; those are still just being made and aging. But we are starting to do a couple of finishings. So um, last year we gave one of our barrels to a meadery, and they made a blueberry mead, which I tasted their original and their barrel aged, and it just took it to another level. So a very very good blueberry mead. Just got that back around a month ago, and I had a barrel that almost it actually made a barrel pick, but then we tried one maybe like 5 minutes after, and that one overtook it. So it's a very very good barrel of Cajun's cut bourbon that I put into that blueberry mead. So that one I'm looking at most likely a July release on that. It's gonna be distillery release only. Um, but tasted it and it's already really good. So that's one finishing we're doing. Um, Next month. So T Moon was the product that we first started with this distillery, and it's kind of a whiskey rum hybrid, just an easy sipper. So I already double oaked it, and right now I'm actually triple oaking that T Moon.
Okay.
In May, um, we're having a strawberry wine be made and put in one of our barrels. And once that's done aging, we're going to get that barrel back. And we're going to put that triple oak T Moon in that strawberry barrel for our 10-year release this year. So that one's pretty special. I'm excited about that one because the triple oak's already good. And I'm thinking this strawberry, if it can come through enough, because strawberry is a hard fruit to really come through on. But if
Right.
it can, it's going to be pretty killer. So we're starting to play with some different finishings. I know, especially with that T Moon, I'm looking at potentially doing a Amberana and definitely a Tokai and releasing some of those. And then, like I said, once we get to minimum 4 on some of our bourbons, then we're going to start to put out some double oaks as well.
Awesome. So Chance is saying that is the distillery open for tastings? They're coming down for smoke and barrel and would love to taste some of the experimental offerings.
So I won't have the experimentals to taste yet. Those are still fairly young, so they're not ready to even. I mean, you'll basically just be drinking distillate at that point. But yeah, we're open. We're open. Just give us a call, and we'll be at Smoke and Barrel as well for that event. So it should be a pretty fun event.
Awesome. Talking about the water reduction process that I guess Nancy does. Still Austin 7.3 is doing that. James was asking, have you considered any of that?
Yes, yes. So starting this summer, we're actually going through most of all of the barrels and preliminarily picking barrel pick barrels versus hey, what's going to be bonded. And for the ones that are bonded, start some of that slow water reduction process. You don't want to get it too close and proof it down to 100, and then for any reason you lose proof, and then you're under, can't be a bonded, right? It has to be a minimum
Yeah.
proof. But yes, we are starting to incorporate some slow water reduction.
Awesome. So, you want to talk about the land and possible expansion, any of that stuff?
Yeah, that's man, we've been looking for a piece of land for probably a year and a half now. And because quite frankly, you've been to our distillery, it's not only a small space, it's logistically a nightmare for trucks to
I
get
can
trucks
imagine.
in and out of there, deliveries, pickups, but also just the production process. I mean, we run through so many more grains than what we did years ago. And so trying to just fit the grains. We don't want to put up silos yet, not until we move to new locations. So we finally found a piece of land. It's around 3.5 acres that we're closing on this week. And
Nice.
going to start that process. It's going to be kind of a staged approach where looking at this year, we're going to stand up our barrel house. So you know already that our barrels are stored down the road because we don't have the room anymore. So we're going to build our barrel house first, move all of our barrels over. In that meantime, start working on the plans for our new distillery. It's going to be not only much larger, but production wise, it's going to be much cleaner to house, you know, all the entire process. But also too, it's going to have a much better. It'll be set up much better for tours as well. So right now, you go to my place, you come back out the same door. This will be actually it'll be able to flow, and then at the top we're gonna have a second story as well that's gonna be overlooking the distillery. Not gonna be a bar per se. I never want to be a bar owner, but we're gonna have events there, do some barrel picks in there, and finish up tours and everything. So that'll most likely be so we'll most likely look at building the barrel house, hopefully break ground and finish the build out this year. And then meantime work on this plan. So probably Q1 of next year is look at start breaking ground for the main distillery and moving all of that over. Now, as far as equipment, we'll be getting a 1,000 gallon mash tun, 1,200 gallon fermenters, um, and then that's the decision is when to make that next big step. So I already told you and I over the phone. I don't think many people know this, but we're going to move up to a continuous column still. So that is going to tenfold our production.
For
Uh,
sure.
but the reason I say it's going to be a staged approach is one is we'd love to find a used one, some that maybe a distillery grew out of, or maybe they're selling for whatever reason. For one, it's a lot cheaper, right? It's a used piece of equipment, but
Right.
more so if I were to go to Vendome today and say, hey, build me a continuous column still. Yes, it's gonna be more money, but it's gonna be a 16 to 24 month build out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's a long process to get a brand new still. So that's why I say I'd like to. I'm looking for a used one that I can incorporate maybe a bit quicker. So the time frame of that is I don't know yet. But yes, we are moving to that continuous route.
Some big boy moves, man. And, unfortunately, right now is probably a good time for you to be keeping your eyes out open for that, because there are people that are struggling that would be selling some of that equipment. So um, I
Yeah,
hope that you do
we're
find
also
a used one.
in the industry. I was trying to help actually Seth out the other day for he's looking for a new steel, and I had a couple of leads on those for the type of steel that he wants. So I have a couple of leads on the column steel that I'm looking for. So hopefully some of those shake loose and we can get our hands on it.
Awesome. Let's see, what is Randy? Hey, Randy.
It's,
What's your distribution currently?
before we started this live, we Brand and I were talking just how difficult distribution is,
Sore
but,
subject for
but
tonight.
it's a sore subject.
Thanks a lot, Randy.
Right now, we're currently in Louisiana, Mississippi, and we're about to take on Colorado. So we're fully licensed in Colorado right now. We're looking for distribution to take our products over there, but we're holding off about 7 or 8 states that have called, mainly because we're holding back the whiskey to get to the age. Once we get to that age and stop holding it back, then we're going to start opening up some more states. But quite frankly, right now we can't make enough whiskey right now, which is why we're going through the expansion for the larger building and the bigger equipment. But we're also on Bourbon Outfitters, so they do ship to most states. Not
Mhm.
many control states, but they do ship to most of them.
Back to that same question, and you may have answered it and I missed it, but Seth's wondering if you guys have any plans to come into Georgia.
Yeah, we will come to Georgia, but again, not till we get to that age.
For sure. For sure. Man, I'm excited to come over and try some of the stuff you've got. I just need to get my butt over that way and do it before too long. So
Yeah, for sure. Especially some of the rye whiskey, because it's nice to see the progression of the whiskey as it gets a bit older. Like I said, it's very good right now, but it's not ready. Let it go through another summer heat cycle. So yeah, get you on down here to come taste it and see what I'm saying is not ready, and then go through 2 more summer heat cycles potentially, and try it again whenever we get to that time.
awesome. Awesome. So it sounds like within probably 16 to 24 months, we might see a new Rick House and a new distillery, huh?
Yeah, yeah, I'd say probably a year to year and a half. We'll have definitely the Rick House, definitely, and most likely the distillery built out. We'll have all of our equipment moved over, have our 1,000 gallon mash tun and new fermenters and whatnot. Still probably utilize that existing still that we have now until we can figure out or order the continuous column still.
What do you think overall? Like how how big of an increase? How large of an increase you think you're going to see in distillation once you get everything going the way you're planning?
Yeah, so right now, because we don't have a mash tun, we use our still as our mash tun mainly because we don't have room within our distillery. We're
Mhm.
only filling 70 barrels per year, 70 53-gallon barrels. If we were to have the room right now and get a mash tun, it would double to 140. But with the column still, we'll have the ability to tenfold that production, 700 to 800 barrels if we want, right?
Sure,
And
sure.
that's based off of a pretty easy schedule. That's not pushing it or doing 24-hour distillations. Because yeah, that continuous still can literally, like the name implies, it can literally never be turned off if you don't want. But yeah, we'll see. So that's why I think it'll work out perfectly. Where in that say 24-month time frame of building everything out, letting the whiskey age longer, which is most important. That's when we'll go through the major equipment expansion. That way, we're not holding whiskey back. Right now, we're starting to sell some of the good whiskey.
Chance is saying, how do you approach column steel production?
That is the major question right now. I'm leaning more towards um, using the column still, not with a doubler like you typically see, but running it as a highly efficient stripping still and collecting all of those low wands and pot stilling the low wands. That way I make the true cuts within that. And that's the way that's the Weller used to do it, is run their column, but then put it in a pot. So that's the direction that we're leaning. But a lot can change in the next 24 months.
Gotcha. Very exciting stuff, man. I know that I know it's been a challenge for you, and you scratched your head since day one. Do I want to do it? Now I'm doing it. Do I want to keep doing it? And where do I go? Do I make this next step? Do I back off? Do I stay where I'm at? And I can't imagine how many nights you've laid awake in bed just trying to figure out what the right move is. It's scary stuff, but
yeah,
I'm proud of you for
every night. But no, it's we're to the point now where, you know, we have to move or not. You know, we're producing so much out of that small distillery that we've outgrown it a year and a half ago, quite frankly, and even starting to fill up the barrel house and whatnot. But especially, you know, like I said, you know, truck logistics, getting trucks in and out is always a challenge. And the good thing about that property that we're closing on this week is it's 3.5 acres, but about 2 of the acres are fully covered in rock. So it has perfect truck access.
That's awesome. Dustin said, moving on up like the Jefferson, son. That's exciting stuff, Phil. It's really exciting to see that happening because it takes guts, man. It takes guts to even get started in something like this and take your passion and do it, knowing that it could fail or it could succeed and be great. And then you get into it and you see the successes and you see the failures and you learn and you do better. But all along, man, I know that's got to be scary, and it takes a lot of guts. You know, I always like to say, scared money they don't make money, right?
So, well, you're right, and we kind of have to be, you know, predict the future. I mean, right now we're planning out to 2032 right now. You know, in the whiskey that we're aging, if not even older than that, and it's, you know, with the bourbon market as is right now, you know, kind of walking on eggshells. No one knows what's going to happen. What is the next big thing? We're hearing single malt whiskey is the next big thing, and
right.
I had this conversation. I don't see it, which is why I took single malt out of production. I'm kind of leaning more in on the different bourbons that we're doing and the rye whiskey, but that could be, you know, a backfire as well. You know, especially in some states. Rye's a hard sell. It just doesn't move because, like I said, people are somewhat scared of it at times.
I wonder if that ever changes. I wonder if it ever becomes more accepted and not so fearful for people. I don't know.
I think it does by, you know, when we all have these bottle shares. And you don't have to go out and buy a $50 or $100 bottle of say, let's talk rye, that we're on that topic. These bottle shares shed light on so many different other products that you may have never picked up. So I think that is where it does help and kind of opens people's minds, or kind of like my buddy said, you know, you better start making a rye because people are asking. But
for sure.
Yeah, it's trying, and look, there's going to be some that you know, we make, and it won't be for everyone, and because there's never a product across any industry in this world that you're going to have 100% support of anyone.
Agreed. Which is why I think it's good to have a few different SKUs, right? I mean, have that wheat bourbon, have that rye whiskey, have that high rye bourbon, like have a few different ones. But then again, you can't go chasing every pallet out there either. You just got to kind of figure out what you want to do. I think Matt's pretty bold, and the Mississippi Sippers are pretty bold because they have tons of SKUs, and it works for them.
It does.
But I think that it does help to have a few different ones. So Seth was saying that me and Kanan should do a barrel pit with you, and we did with the Sippers and Spillway last year. And I actually have that bottle somewhere. I need to grab it. But They were nice enough to like put mine and his and Spillway and Mississippi Sippers logos down the side of the bottle. Had a great day that day. We drank way too much whiskey. Philip rolled out so many barrels,
That's
and
that's
I
always
was new to the camera. I had literally just gotten the camera that I was using that day, the day before. Matter of fact, I was here in Birmingham and ordered the camera. We were headed to Auburn for something for my daughter. I had the camera shipped to her house. I had to leave her house at a dead time to get down to Lafayette to be over at your place, and the camera showed up as I was walking out the door. So that's how new it was to me, unboxed it going down the road. And that footage and the audio was not good. Like I didn't do a great job and ended up scrapping that video. But we did do one, and I'd love to do another with him in the future. So
yeah, for sure.
I
I
talk
can.
now.
I'm not sure when we're doing it, but we're about to start doing some special finishes on the Timu. Like I said, maybe with the Kai, maybe a toasted pecan. We'll kind of see. But I'm having fun with the Timu. One, because people are starting to more appreciate it. But I had this conversation the other day with someone. I don't know if you know, but I took it out of production mainly because it's not the taste, it's not the flavor, but it is our worst seller in the store. But it's our best seller at the distillery because it's a hand sell, right? You read the label and it says not whiskey, not rum. It says spirits distilled from grain and cane. People are like, what is that? And so it takes me actually having to hand sell that product. Frankly, I'm quite tired of hand selling, and I want to be more known to be a whiskey and bourbon shop rather than that. So yeah, we took it out of production, but that's one of the reasons why we're doing some fun finishings with it, and seeing what comes out of it.
Gotcha. Dustin saying I need to take him along on the next barrel pick. Man, I'd love to. That it's wild that what I've tried to do is on the first picks I just put together some friends or close guys that I knew that had decent palates. We go do picks or I'd get invited with the sippers to go, and obviously I don't invite people on ones that I'm invited on, but the ones that I've got coming up, I've put that over to the patrons first and then over to the Facebook group, and I put together like a little sheet for them to fill out. I figured I'd get like 8 or 10 people. I think we're up to about 40 people. So I'll just have to rotate through that list and take people as I can, but would absolutely love to take you. It's absolutely a blast, especially at Philip's place because he feeds you a ton of whiskey.
Yeah, let's do it. I've done picks a couple of different ways. I've done it where we sit down at a table and fill out, pieces of paper and put down your notes and your thoughts and things like that. My funnest picks that I go on is let's just go crack some barrels. And quite frankly, you've been in there before. Is we're going to crack every single barrel in there if we can handle it. We'll crack some cadence cut, some wheated bourbon that's too early, some rye that's too early, maybe some experimentals, and that's just makes it kind of camaraderie and it makes it fun. Like we know, yeah, we're going to pick say a cadence cut barrel or whatever, but let's go taste some other whiskey too, see how it's progressing along because. Quite frankly, I don't get around to it often enough. And by doing the picks and cracking these barrels, I'm tasting it with you, for maybe the first time in a couple of months since I've had it before.
Right. Yeah. Gives you some opportunities. I know everyone I've been on, I've had a blast. I remember the one at your place last year. Boy, it was hot.
It is, man. That was that in August maybe for the?
It had to have been August or September, somewhere around there. It was football season, I'll say that.
So I told Justin, with Spillway, I kept holding them off. I said, y'all don't come. It is far too hot. And so finally, he got down to the wire. I'm like, oh, we have to come. I'm like, all right, well, I'll have some extra waters, but it's get ready to sweat. It's gonna be hot. So I tried not to do barrel picks in the summer because it is that hot, but sometimes you just gotta do it.
It was. Let's see what we got here. Chase says, Philip the distiller. What's up, Philip?
What's up, Chase?
Chase is a good dude. What other questions y'all have for Philip? I don't want to hold him up too long. We're about 50 minutes in, so we'll hang him on for another 5 or 10 if y'all got some questions.
Yeah, so while we're waiting on that, I'll kind of give you a little, shed a little light on some more, I guess, experimentals that I'm doing. So the other day, I ran out of corn, but I knew I was gonna, so I bumped up one of my experimentals where in our rye mash bill we have 20% corn. So I took out the corn and I replaced it with 20% wheat. So it's a wheated rye, and that distillate was pretty good. So I put that one in experimentals, and at the end of this summer, I am going to put in a 99.1 American Light whiskey.
Okay.
So American Light whiskey gets distilled over 160 proof. So most likely going to distill it between 165, 170, and it's going in the barrel. I know I just talked a lot about lower barrel entry proof, right? But so
Yeah.
for this one, it's going to go into that high proof. But so American Light whiskey can be put into two different kind of barrels, either a brand new uncharred barrel or a used barrel. So I'm gonna fill two, a couple of different ones of each, and just kind of
Okay.
see what that barrel impact does with the uncharred versus a used barrel at the high proof, maybe slow water reduction as well along the way, and see kind of how that progresses along.
Yeah, the first American light whiskey that I really tried was some RY3 stuff, like a 14-year. Matter of fact, it was a spillway pick,
Yep.
and they were having a hard time selling it. And I was like, I don't know why people didn't buy like cases of that. It was really good. But it was another one of those, like I was telling you, like the proof was higher. So looking at the bottle, it's a lighter color whiskey, and I'm just like, and man, he put that in the glass, and it had tremendous mouthfeel on it. Had tons of flavor, just all around. It was a great whiskey, and I don't know the difference in them, but I haven't had one that was just like burn your face off hot either. But I've
Yeah,
had some with
and just like
140s and 160s, and they're palatable.
the age statements, color's a big deal, but it doesn't mean what's in that bottle, right? You get an American light whiskey that maybe have a ton of flavor, so smooth, but it looks like it got put in the barrel maybe 6 months ago, and that's all it
Yeah.
aged. So, yeah. So I see James said experimental barrel picks, or will they be barrel picks or distillery releases only? So we'll see. Most it will definitely be distillery release only. We may let some go as barrel picks as they progress in age, especially if there's some banger barrels. But what we may do as well, like let's say we release, I don't know, picking a Bloody Butcher Red Corn at 6 years. We may only release one of those barrels and then let some more go to maybe a 8 year and kind of see with that same experimental what's the differences in the years. And most likely than not, it's going to be more 375 milliliters. That way people can get their hands on them because it is going to be limited.
Gotcha. Randy's wondering what's your favorite sip besides your stuff.
Honestly, put a craft distiller in front of me. Put a craft distillery bottle in front of me that's making their own, and stand behind it, and they're transparent, and that's what I'm gonna sip all day long.
I like it. I like it. Um, Seth asked, any plans to do a true double oak past, what you've already transferred to the smaller barrels? Like you going to go 53 to 53?
Yes, absolutely. Starting next year, we're going to start to double oak some cages cut, and that's going to be from big to big, not from small to big. So yeah, we're going
Yep.
to start to have some of those double oaks, but we're going to do it across all the SKUs as well. Our wheated bourbon. Once we start releasing that and whatnot, then we're going to start double oaking some wheated. We're going to start double oaking some rye, and maybe even some finishings. Probably won't get crazy on the finishings, but um, we're going to start putting some of that into place.
Gotcha. Chase is saying he came in late, but his understanding is that all your new stuff's going into Kelvin's.
Yep, all the new stuff is going into Kelvin's. I don't want to say for the entire future. We're starting to look at some other cooperages as well, like Independent Stave. I know some of the barrels that Seth has are pretty killer with Independent Staves, the BET
Yeah.
one, the spiral cuts, and it's nice to see um, the differences in the same whiskey and
Mhm.
really hone in on a cooperage that complements your whiskey the best. So more likely than not, we're going to start looking at some other cooperages and start playing with some different barrels as well. Not only different cooperages, but different chars, different toasts.
You know, the one thing that, because I've always just been Kelvin, thinking, you know, that's primarily my thing. So many people use Independent Stave, and I used to wonder, why does anybody use anything other than Kelvin? But, you know, Seth told that story that you and I were talking about the other day when I was driving through Atlanta about how he went to Independent Stave with a batch that he needed help on, and how they just got totally scientific and nerded out, and really saved that batch of whiskey with telling him what he needed to do. So that was really impressive. Maybe all the cooperages do that. I don't
It
know.
was impressive to hear that level of involvement and build. They built a special, um, barrel char and toast profile around that whiskey.
Yeah.
You don't hear that too often, right? And so that was very nice to hear. And actually, speaking of the double oaks, is we're going down that route. Is starting to talk to these scoopers that here's what I got, give them some samples. I want to start double oaking that. You know, what some possible recommendations that we can do, and that's such an interesting thing. I always thought, dark, or heavy char, heavy toast, whatnot, and it was nice to hear. Matt and I had a conversation the other day, and he's double oaking a char number one, and it's absolutely fantastic. So
Yeah, I love his double oaks.
yeah, they're so good, and that kind of opened my mind up to looking at the different profiles. You know, what's kind of best for the actual whiskey itself.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess, Philip, so I don't hold you up all night. Guys, if y'all have any other questions, go ahead and ask them. If not, then I'll let Philip get back to the fam.
Yeah, for sure, man. I appreciate it. You know, it's. I know you and I have been kind of talking on the side for a while of this expansion and all the plans. And what what I will do is, as you can see, I'm trying to be more transparent about everything that we're doing, not just our mash bills, the barrels, but try to maybe hopefully involve y'all in this build out. Not pop up one day and say, hey, by the way, we have a brand new building. Yeah, y'all come, but actually, bring y'all along step by step along the entire process to show you kind of what it takes to build out a distillery, and some of the decisions that we made, and maybe why we made these different decisions to go certain routes.
Absolutely. And as that goes on, I know between Kane and I both, but we'd love to come by and document some of that, get some footage and share some of that out with everybody. And I think people will really appreciate that, because that's something that, like, a lot of the majors aren't going to do. I know the guys at Pursuit are doing that with their new place. They're just being pretty transparent, going through, showing different videos all the time about what's going on. And I think people really appreciate that. They feel connected, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing to hide. I mean, and we're living and breathing this, day in and day out, and kind of want y'all to as well to see, why we made this decision. And you never know, maybe it'll connect with somebody who's always thought about opening up their own distillery and seeing some of these decisions that are being made. So I think it's gonna be pretty fun. Once we have, kind of more of a defining time frame on when we're gonna actually start building it out, then we'll kind of post that and let everyone know. But we're already working on plans right now.
Awesome. Dude, it was good to talk to you, man. I'm glad we got to share that with everybody. I hope you guys learned something from that, and we're gonna hide and watch, Philip. Can't wait to see what's happening.
Sounds good, man. I appreciate you, Brandon.
All right, brother. Take care, man. Y'all take care. See y'all.
Bye.